Welcome to Share Talk, where it's a mining special, and we've got two important people from Phoenix Global Mining. We've got Dennis Thomas, CEO, and Richard Wilkins, who is the CFO. How are you today, gentlemen?
Very well, thank you, sir.
Very well, thank you.
Well, I was looking through your website, and there's a long history and lots of projects going on. The only thing that stuck in my mind was Idaho. I'm not quite sure why, but what's going on there?
Phoenix was set up back in 2013 really to specialise and look particularly for base metals projects. We've, how could I say, kissed a lot of frogs during that time. We recognised particularly the Empire Mine in Idaho as being an excellent target. It's an operation that I knew previously. And 2015 it became available, so we've primarily focused ourselves on Idaho and the Empire Mine, the development of it.
Right, I mean, obviously, 2011 was when the bubble burst, let's say, in the mining sector. Every year after that, they said this is the year there's going to be a turnaround, and there wasn't. So 2012-13, buying your project in 2015 now looks rather clever. Was that luck or design?
It's something that we'd followed it, and it became available. So serendipity, you might call it. It became available.
It was the design.
Yes.
So I mean, I've obviously interviewed a lot of people in your sector. They said that by 2015, assets had got so cheap, and it was becoming ridiculous. Did you have that sense at that time?
I had the sense at the time. I think we were primarily focused on getting the right project. I think rather than any major strategic, we recognised that base metals particularly were going to strengthen, and I think it's our team, that's what we have experience in. So it was a logical move for us, and the Empire Mine project particularly was extremely exciting project.
Well, obviously a big part of the mining process is the finance for this. You're the CFO, Richard. How's the position of your company in that respect?
Well, I think we were very lucky. We did a deal with a former listed company and effectively acquired the share register. So for a couple of years now, we've had the share register of a public company, and they've been incredibly supportive. They've put money up pre-IPO. Most of them are following in the IPO. So not only have we done a successful IPO now, where we've raised the money that we set out to raise, in fact slightly more, but we also did a very successful pre-IPO, which means that as we sit here today, we're not waiting for the cash at the end of this week. We're already drilling on site. The work program has started. The news flow will be coming, and so it's down to our shareholders supporting us. And then I think what's been a successful IPO itself.
And part of the success is that due to you buying at, let's say, distressed prices in the beginning, so the financing was not that.
No, I don't think we bought at a distressed price. I think we've got a very good deal with a company that's remodeling itself as a royalty company. It was structured as an earn-in arrangement. Obviously, there was a modest acquisition cost. Most of that was paid in Phoenix shares. So the cash outlay that's gone outside the company is minimal. The investment we had to make in the project to convince the vendor to sell it to us, which has largely now been made, but the balance is being paid out of the IPO funds, is all being spent on the project.
Right, and how much are you helped as a company by being in Idaho rather than in the back of beyond? Well, back of beyond in a jurisdiction which may not be quite so friendly. Let's say.
I think that's a huge advantage. Both Dennis and I have experience of working in emerging markets, and it's not always ended happily. So with Phoenix, we specifically decided to target a first world jurisdiction, and I don't think honestly you can get better than Idaho. We're in a mining friendly county within a mining friendly state within a mining friendly country, and I have to say that the support we've been given from the governor of the state of Idaho right down to the mayor of the local town has been truly overwhelming. Their only concern is when can you start? So the good news for them is we have started. We started last week, the drills came into town and they're on the hill and we're operating.
So, I mean, and that was the other thing. I mean, having interviewed so many companies before, one thinks that because the road to production is so tortuous, as an investor, you might as well just wait until you can actually see the metal coming out of the ground and then invest rather than do all the heavy lifting.
I think we're slightly different there as well. I mean, certainly we have near-term production. We should be producing at least 7,000 tonnes of cathode copper a year from early 2020. The money we've raised now will see us through the pre-feasibility study early next year, then we'll raise a bit more for bankable. But I think what makes this a bit different and frankly rather special and exciting is the underground mine, the higher grade underground ore that's sitting below the open pit, which is phase one. I mean, that open pit mine, we have no problems developing that. But what we're sitting on top of, which we are also going to be drilling this summer, is potentially enormous. So there should be some really good blue sky exploration news coming through, whilst we hopefully positively update the market on progress towards production.
And is this a major world asset that you're sitting on, or is it modest, medium?
I'll let Dennis answer
I think our consulting geologist, he reported that probably 5% or less of the ore system has in fact been really looked at in any detail. We have a sulfide deposit underlying an oxide deposit. The only work that's been done on the project so far has been on the surface surface oxides, and little or no work has been done on the sulfide potential. And it's polymetallic, so we're copper, gold, silver. The copper will be produced in production, the initial production from the oxide pit, but below the surface open pit, we're looking at copper, gold, silver, and tungsten as well, which in fact was mined at the end of the life of the mine back in 1942. So there's considerable scope for development of the sulfides, and the sulfides in fact we have a tip of an iceberg in fact in what we have in the surface oxide deposits.
Right, and speaking of 1942, how much has the technology improved? Over the last few years, and how much?
Well, I think that the what has happened is that people have they've forgotten the sulfides, what lay below the surface. Technology's improved now so that you can use acid leaching of copper oxide ores, and so things since the 1960s, the project has been totally consumed by looking at the oxide copper on surface, and looking at basically a heat leach operation with solvent extraction, and to be perfectly honest, the holes, 287 holes into the ore body, I describe it as being like a pincushion up on the surface there, and so there's no doubt the resource is there, and really we're looking at this thing, bringing it in production, and part of that production then will obviously pay for the really exploring the underground sulfide potential, which we believe is considerable.
Right. I mean, you mentioned that you've been around emerging markets. You've been around the block for quite a while. Let's say, how much is management experience important to these sorts of projects?
I have a little mantra: tons, grade, and people. And I think I've seen some of the best ore bodies in the world destroyed by the wrong people. And I think teamwork is essential. And I have to say that the team that we have in this project particularly is the best I've ever worked with. And I think it's vitally important, particularly in the initial stages. I think people are most important of all.
Right, so but with the years you can judge the characters and judge the knowledge, etc.
I've had a bit of experience. Anybody that's been in the mining industry may have seen me in other guises, and particularly with regards to assessing technical capabilities, yes.
Right, finally, just wanted to talk about where we are in the cycle. Obviously, that we had the January 2016, everything started going up again. And then we had the boost on the Trump election, and that seems to have faded a bit. What's your view of where we are, and what for 2020? Let's say the outlook is over the next couple of years.
I think two hot things at the moment are coming into focus. Talking around the city and in fact around the world. Lithium, particularly, obviously, and copper. Copper, to me, we're starting to get into the era now of copper being consumed, and copper getting into deficiency in terms of supply. And I think we're looking at electric cars. We're looking at wind turbines. I think the move to a greener future is, in fact, good as far as we copper producers are concerned.
Dennis Thomas, CEO, and Richard Wilkins, CFO at Phoenix Global Mining, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.